Let me tell you something about routine. It's not just habit, it's survival. I've had the same morning ritual for the last 8 years. Black coffee, 2 sugars. Morning jog around the block, unless it's raining or my knees start complaining like they're unionized. Then, a quick shower, and I pick a tie. The red one on Tuesdays, because I'm a creature of rhythm, not fashion. Tuesday morning, rain. Of course. The one day my umbrella wasn't by the door. I had to dig through the hall closet like a raccoon on espresso, only to find it in the trunk of my car, wet, crumpled, and smelling faintly of corn chips. That should have been my sign. The universe doesn't shout, it whispers with mildew and corn chips. When I finally got to work, late and slightly soggy, Janice at reception looked up and said, "Rough morning, Mr. Trent?" I gave her the polite smile. The one that says, "I'm 5 emails away from madness, but thanks for asking." What I didn't say was, the day's barely begun, and I already feel like the soggy half of a grilled cheese. My name is Jonathan Trent. 42. Married. Successfully, if you'd asked me last month. Employed, middle management, middle of everything, really. Middle of the company, middle of my life, middle of the emotional ocean with no visible land. I thought I had a solid grip on the wheel of my little suburban cruise ship. Nice house, mortgage paid on time, a wife who smiled at my jokes, even the bad ones, and a dog who didn't eat socks. That morning, I was still living in that illusion. Blissful, blind, and holding my red Tuesday tie like a flag of stability. I didn't know that somewhere across town, someone else was pressing lips that weren't mine. I didn't know that my wife, the same one who used to write love notes in my lunchbox, had stopped writing anything but excuses. No. At that moment, all I knew was that my coffee was cold, my tie was slightly crooked, and I was about to walk into a meeting where Steve from accounting would explain, again, how the year-end projections show potential. Blissfully unaware. That's the best part of tragedy, isn't it? It always starts with a Tuesday. Thursday morning, 2 days after the red tie. I remember because I wore the navy one. It's my important meeting tie, the one that says, "I'm not just punctual, I'm dangerously competent." Now, here's the thing. I hadn't planned on going home early. My meeting with a vendor got canceled last minute. Traffic was light. The stars aligned. So I figured, why not surprise the wife with takeout and a smile? I even picked up her favorite, those overpriced sushi rolls she always claimed made her feel refined. Spoiler, they just gave me indigestion. The house was quiet when I pulled in. Not silent. Quiet in that heavy, suspicious way that makes you tilt your head like a dog hearing a vacuum cleaner. No TV. No music. No hum of laundry or clang of dishes. Just the whisper of something being off. I stepped inside. Shoes by the door, check. Jacket on the hook, check. Then my eyes fell on something curious, a wine glass on the coffee table. Half full. Lipstick smudge. Not her usual shade. And next to it, another glass. Empty. No smudge. Now, listen. I'm not a jealous man. Never have been. But there's a particular brand of cold that runs down your spine when you notice the kind of detail you weren't even supposed to notice. "Honey," I called, already knowing she wouldn't answer the way she used to. A sound from upstairs. Soft. Muffled. A thump. Then a laugh. Not hers. I stood there, sushi bag sweating in my hand, staring up at the ceiling like it owed me an explanation. She came down a few minutes later. Hair slightly tousled, cheeks flushed in that way that said, "I've just done something aerobic and secretive." She smiled. Too wide. "John," she beamed, stepping down the stairs with a bounce in her step. "You're home early." Yeah, I was. I was also holding a bag of expensive raw fish and trying not to read too much into the fact that she reeked of citrus body wash we didn't own. "Oh," she added, eyeing the bag. "You brought sushi. That's sweet." Sweet. Not romantic. Not thoughtful. Just sweet, like a kid handing his mom a crayon drawing while she's on the phone with her divorce lawyer. "I figured we could eat together," I said, watching her closely. She smiled again. "Let me just freshen up." Freshen up. The words hit like a velvet hammer. That's when I knew. Not everything. Not the name. Not the details. But I knew. And once you know, the countdown begins. The thing about suspicion is, once it slips in, it doesn't politely hang up its coat and wait. No, it barges in, flings open drawers, and starts asking questions in the back of your head while you're trying to act normal. That night, we had sushi. Correction, I had sushi. She moved it around with her chopsticks like she was performing surgery on a dead fish. Said she wasn't hungry. Said she had a headache. Said a lot of things, really. None of them made sense. When she went to bed early again, I waited. I sat in the kitchen, staring at a half cup of cold tea and wondering if I was going insane or just finally paying attention. Then, I saw it. Her purse. On the counter. Normally, she clutched it like it held state secrets. That night? Wide open, careless. Almost like she was daring me to look. So I did. Inside was the usual lip balm, receipts, a few mints. And then, under her wallet, tucked neatly into a side pocket, was a phone I'd never seen before. Not her phone. A second phone. You know how they say you don't know what you're capable of until you're pushed? Well, turns out, I'm capable of sitting there in total silence, staring at a cheap burner phone while the foundations of my marriage creak like old floorboards under a heavy truth. It wasn't locked. Because of course it wasn't. The messages? Oh, they were there. Dozens of them. I miss you already. You smelled amazing. Same time next week? Some guy named Ben. No emojis. No real names. Just hotel addresses. Timestamps. And one particularly poetic message that read, "He doesn't suspect a thing. He's so sweet. Like a Labrador with a mortgage." Yeah, that one stuck. She came down 10 minutes later, robe tied around her waist, feigning innocence. "Forgot my tea," she said, not even looking at me. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just handed her the mug. It was cold, and so was I. "Everything okay?" she asked, catching my stare. "Peachy," I said, smiling just enough to make her wonder what I knew. She hesitated, then turned and walked away. That was the moment. Right there. When the world split in two. Before Ben. And after. I didn't confront her right away. That's the rookie move. No, I did what any man with half a brain and a fully broken heart would do. I started collecting. Receipts. Screenshots. Lies, packaged neatly in texts and hotel confirmations. I turned my home into a quiet little FBI office. Except the only suspect was the woman I once believed would eulogize me with love in her voice. I made it my business to know everything. First step? Cloning the burner. Turns out, if you can Google how to grill a steak, you can also Google how to mirror a phone. 10 minutes and a YouTube tutorial later, I had every text forwarded to a hidden folder on my laptop. Ben was thorough. He wasn't just a fling. He was a full-blown schedule. Tuesdays and Fridays. Sometimes Wednesdays, when he had late meetings. Apparently, they had a favorite room at the Blue Ashwood Suites, room 208. She once texted, "I love how it smells like us now." Romantic, right? If you're into the stench of betrayal. One night, she told me she was attending a work mixer. A mixer. For dental assistants. I told her to have fun, kissed her forehead, and even helped zip up her dress. That dress used to be for me. No? It was a uniform for espionage. She left at 6:45. I waited until 7:15, grabbed my keys, and followed her from a distance like a man auditioning for his own heartbreak. Blue Ashwood Suites. Room 208. Just like clockwork. I parked across the street and waited. An hour later, the lights in 208 turned off. I wasn't close enough to see their silhouettes, but I didn't need to. My imagination is crueler than any window. The next morning, she came home smelling like lilacs and lies. I asked her how the mixer went. "Good," she said, brushing crumbs from her bagel. Susan from work got so drunk, she tried to dance on the buffet table. Susan, for the record, had knee surgery 2 months ago. She wasn't dancing anywhere. I smiled and nodded. "Sounds like a party." She grinned, pleased with herself. That's the worst part, by the way, not the betrayal. The comfort. The ease with which she lied. Like breathing. So I kept collecting. I went back through old credit card statements. Hidden charges, gas stations near hotels, gift shop purchases with generic descriptions like gourmet basket, and luxury soaps. Nothing had her name on it, of course. Ben was smarter than that. But her smile was too smug, her stories too perfect. Then came the voice note. Ben, apparently, is one of those guys who thinks his voice sounds sexy. He sent her an audio message while she was in the shower one evening. I had just finished brushing my teeth when it pinged her burner in the closet. Out of pure instinct, I grabbed the phone and hit play. His voice was low, syrupy. "Last night was insane. I still taste you on my fingers. You're dangerous, woman. How's the puppy?" Still clueless. I didn't flinch. I saved the file. That night, I lay beside her, watching her sleep. Her hand on my chest like nothing had changed. Like everything wasn't burning beneath the sheets. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just infidelity. This was architecture. Blueprint betrayal. A carefully built second life, complete with timelines and aliases. And I was the furniture. Useful. Present. Ignored and less broken. I needed a plan. A real one. Not rage. Not confrontation. Something with elegance. Timing. Because here's the thing. I'm not a violent man. But I am a patient one. So I kept collecting. I bought a cheap voice recorder, the kind spies use in bad movies. Slipped it into the lining of her purse one evening while she was in the shower. Over the next 2 weeks, I listened to everything: phone calls with Ben, sarcastic side comments about me to her friends, even one where she joked I could cheat in front of him, and he'd probably ask if I wanted tea. Spoiler, I would've. But not anymore. Then came the anniversary. 12 years. We had dinner reservations. She wanted Italian. I made the reservation, wore a blazer, and brought her flowers. Not because I was still trying. Because I was staging a scene. At dinner, she laughed. Told me I was looking handsome. I raised my glass and said, to us. Into new beginnings. She clinked her glass with mine, totally unaware. The next morning, I mailed a packet. One to her boss. One to her sister. One to Ben's wife. Oh yes, he had one. Her name was Carla. I found her Facebook. Lovely woman. 2 kids. PDA president. Deserved better. The packet included photos, printouts, timestamps. Even the voice note with his syrupy whisper. That night, my wife walked in the door smiling. Babe, she said, you won't believe the day I had. Oh. She stopped when she saw the suitcase. What's going on? I'm leaving, I said, calm as a lake before the storm. You'll want to check your inbox. And maybe call Ben's wife. She got a little gift. She blinked. What did you do? Just a little collecting, I said, and walked out the door. The day after I left, the phone rang 11 times before noon. Her number. Each time, I stared at the screen like it owed me an apology. I didn't answer. Not because I was being dramatic. Because I was done giving her free airtime in my head. Instead, I sat in a small rented apartment with beige walls and a microwave that sounded like it was clearing its throat every time I used it. But it was peaceful. The kind of quiet that doesn't ask questions or smell like someone else's cologne. Around 3 p.m., my lawyer called. She knows, he said plainly. I figured. She's angry. Emotional. I smirked. She ever deny any of it? She didn't try. Not really. Just said you blindsided her. Accused you of being cold. Cold. That was rich. Cold as putting flowers on the table while knowing someone else was rearranging the sheets at a hotel. Cold as saying, I love you, like it's an apology to yourself. Cold? No. What I was doing now, this, was justice with a tie on. Later that night, my sister called. I saw your little email packet, she said, voice tight. Yeah? And I'm not saying she didn't deserve to be exposed, but that was nuclear, John. Nuclear was what she did to our marriage, I replied, pulling a beer from the fridge. I just gave it a soundtrack. Silence on her end. Then, well, Carla found it helpful. Ah yes. Ben's wife. Apparently, Carla responded with a level of efficiency that would have impressed the CIA, kicked Ben out. Changed the locks. Filed for divorce the next morning. Sent me a thank you email titled, You blew up my life, and I owe you a drink. I liked Carla. I liked her a lot. That week was a blur of fallout. Mutual friends texting with disbelief. Some defended her, those who never quite liked me to begin with. Others offered support, surprised by how composed I was. One buddy, Greg, said, Man, you're handling this like a monk. I'd be in jail by now. I thought about it, I said. But courtrooms don't pair well with sarcasm. Still, even with the chaos swirling around her, she hadn't stopped calling. Day 5, she finally left a voicemail. John, please. You don't understand. It wasn't just physical. It was emotional. You stopped talking to me. You stopped seeing me. And Ben, he was there. Right. Ben was there. So was my paycheck. So were the anniversaries. So were the nights I rubbed her feet when she was stressed. But Ben, with his gym membership and spray tan, that's who she felt seen by. No, I understood just fine. The funny thing about betrayal, it makes you look backward with a magnifying glass and forward with a flamethrower. By the end of the week, I had returned every item that reminded me of her. Wedding album? Left it in her mailbox. Her favorite mug? Shattered. The handwritten notes she used to leave in my lunch? Burned. One afternoon, I ran into our neighbor, Pam. Sweet woman, early 60s, always watering her garden like she was growing answers out of the soil. I heard what happened, she said softly. I nodded. Yeah. She handed me a small brown box. She asked me to give you this. Said you might want it. Inside? A photo. Us on our honeymoon. Her in a sundress, me in cargo shorts, back before time and secrets made us different people. Taped to the frame was a note. I'm sorry you didn't see what I was missing. For a second, my chest tightened. But then I remembered something. You can't miss what someone doesn't tell you is gone. If she needed more, she had 1,000 better options than Ben from room 208. I tossed the frame in a dumpster behind Pam's house and kept walking. Later that night, I sat on the floor of my new apartment with a frozen pizza and a bottle of scotch that cost more than the microwave. I wasn't celebrating. I was marking something. Not an ending. Not really. More like a recalibration. Because the truth is, I didn't want her back. I wanted my time back. My faith. My quiet mornings and unguarded smiles. And no divorce lawyer could put that into a settlement. But here's the twist. The part that kept me up wasn't the betrayal. It was how easy it was for her to lie. How seamless the performance had been. There was no dramatic shift. No major fight. Just a slow, quiet edit to the script where I stopped being the co-star and became a prop. That stays with you. Still, I had one more move to make. Not for her. For me. You ever stare at a name on a screen so long that it stops looking like a name and starts looking like a punchline? That was me with Ben Wallace. I found him on LinkedIn first, senior account manager at a company that sells packaging supplies, which felt poetic. A man who destroys families and sells cardboard. Fitting. From there, it wasn't hard. A few clicks and I found his gym. His favorite smoothie bar. Even a picture of him at a company barbecue, wearing a Grill Daddy apron like that wasn't a cry for help. I didn't want to hurt him. I wanted to understand him. I needed to see what kind of man you had to be to knowingly sleep with someone else's wife while high-fiving your kids at soccer practice. So I made a plan. Subtle. Civil. Public. A Tuesday, naturally. I walked into the gym lobby at 5:40 p.m., prime post-work alpha hour. He was there, talking to a trainer, arms folded like he was posing for a motivational poster. I walked right up to him. Ben Wallace. He looked up. Yeah. I extended a hand. I'm John Trent. He blinked. Recognition didn't hit him like a truck. It tiptoed in. Trent. Emily's husband, I said, smiling politely. The color drained from his face like someone had pulled the plug. Oh, he managed, looking over at the trainer, who wisely excused himself like he'd just remembered he left a treadmill running. Ben stood still, jaw tight. Look, man, I didn't expect. Relax, I said, holding up my hands. I'm not here to make a scene. No fists. No yelling. Just a conversation. He didn't sit. Just leaned awkwardly against a vending machine filled with protein bars and guilt. I gestured to a bench in the waiting area. Come on. You owe me 10 minutes. To my surprise, he followed. We sat. Silence stretched between us like an overinflated balloon. You know, I started, when I imagined meeting the guy who was sleeping with my wife, I pictured someone taller. Ben flinched. That's fair, he muttered. Look, I didn't know you. I didn't think about you. That much is obvious. He ran a hand through his hair. It wasn't supposed to happen. Oh, that's good. I'll jot that down. Wasn't supposed to happen. Just slipped and fell into a few hotel rooms, did you? He sighed. I get it. You want to humiliate me. No, Ben. You did that to yourself. I want clarity. I want to know what made a grown man, with his own family, look at someone else's wife and say, yeah, I'll have that. He looked down at his hands. It wasn't about you. It was her. She said she was lonely, that you'd grown distant. I tilted my head. So she painted a sad little picture, and you brought the paintbrush. I didn't mean for it to go that far. It went far enough for her to leave lipstick on your collar more than once. He exhaled sharply, the weight of his stupidity finally catching up. It was exciting. That's what it was. I'm not proud of it. No, I said, crossing my arms. You're just not proud you got caught. He looked up then, really looked at me. You're right. You should hate me. I don't, I said, and meant it. Hate's a compliment at this point. It means I'd still care. Ben was quiet. She's all yours now, I added. Congratulations. She's great at secrets and she lies like it's a second language. Best of luck. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Probably the smartest thing he did all week. I stood. We're done here. He looked up at me, eyes half apologetic, half broken. John, I'm sorry. No, Ben. You're sorry it matters. That's not the same thing. As I walked out, I realized I felt lighter. Not better. Not healed, just lighter. Closure isn't a door slamming shut. It's the realization that you've already walked through it, and there's no reason to go back. That night, I poured myself a drink and looked out the window of my new place. The world kept turning. People kept walking their dogs. Someone laughed on a balcony. And I felt fine, because I had looked the villain in the face and seen what he really was. Not a monster, just a man, a small one. With Ben in the rear view, I shifted focus. See, betrayal does something strange to the brain. It doesn't just hurt. It reprograms. Suddenly, I wasn't interested in healing. I was interested in accountability. Emily thought the storm had passed. Thought I was just another man who'd lick his wounds and rebuild. She underestimated me, classic mistake. Because I wasn't rebuilding. I was reorganizing. First step? The house. She begged to keep it. Claimed it was for stability. I agreed. On one condition, she buys me out in full. At my price. She hesitated, but agreed. Emotion makes people sloppy. Especially guilt-ridden people trying to prove they're not monsters. I took the money and bought a condo overlooking the river. Nothing fancy. Just high enough to watch life go by and remind myself that survival doesn't mean retreat. It means reset. Then I turned to the social circles. Most of them were couples we'd known together. Dinners, birthdays, wine tastings. I made a list. People who stayed neutral? Fine. People who took her side? Cut. People who silently applauded my quiet destruction? Those. I invited to dinner. And oh, did we talk? I told them everything. Not with bitterness, but precision. Like reading a weather report from a storm I'd already lived through. By the end, a few of them switched teams. Turns out, people love redemption, but they respect revenge. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I got an email. Subject line, closure. It was from her. Emily. I didn't respond right away. I let it marinate. Let her wonder if it bounced. Let her stew in the space between a question and silence. 2 days later, I replied. Name the place. We met at a small cafe near where we used to take Sunday walks. She was already seated, stirring her tea like it had done something wrong. When she saw me, she smiled nervously. You look good. You look the same, I said. Not a compliment. Just a fact. She got to the point. I know you'll never forgive me, but I wanted you to hear it from me. I was lost. I didn't know how to ask for help. I sipped my coffee. I sabotaged something good because I didn't feel good, she continued. You didn't deserve that. No, I didn't, I said, calmly. But you weren't lost, Emily. You were bored. And instead of fixing the roof, you burned the house. She blinked. That line hit her. I miss us, she whispered. Us didn't miss you back, I replied. She nodded, tears in her eyes. But I didn't feel sorry. Because for the first time in years, I was the only honest one at the table. A few weeks later, I got a call. From Carla, Ben's ex-wife. She thanked me again. Said she'd finally sold their house, enrolled in a coding boot camp, and was making bank. She laughed like a woman who'd learned how to fix her own damn roof. Then came the curveball. You ever think about getting coffee? She asked. I paused. Are you asking me out, Carla? I'm saying, we've both been through the same hurricane. Might be nice to sit in the same storm shelter. I agreed. Not because I was lonely. Because I was open. We met. Talked. Laughed harder than I had in months. There was no romance, not yet. But there was a shared understanding. A quiet alliance between survivors. I realized then, healing isn't dramatic. It's slow. It's awkward. But it's real. And now, the part you've been waiting for. The revenge. See, what I did wasn't loud. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't even illegal. It was precise. Months earlier, I had learned one small detail from Ben during our talk at the gym. He and Emily had plans. Big ones. They were planning to open a wellness center together. She'd cash out part of her 401k. He'd invest his savings. They were going all in. So I made a few quiet calls. Remember that buyout she paid me for the house? I used it to buy the building next door to their proposed location before they closed on theirs. Then I opened a cafe. One that offered smoothies, and yoga, and wellness programs. I hired a marketing team, made the place look like Instagram threw up Serenity, and ran monthly promos right in their launch window. They never stood a chance. Word got around fast. Their center opened. Quietly. Limping. Within 6 months, they closed. Cited unexpected competition. Their investors pulled out. And Emily? She moved in with Ben. Then out. Then, off the grid. I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled. Because revenge isn't about cruelty. It's about symmetry. She took something from me. So I took something from her. And when it was over, I didn't feel rage. I felt nothing. And that's peace.